City of Salem, City Council Committee on Administrative Finance, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, met in the council chamber on May 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the matters of the fiscal year 2026 operating budget meeting and capital improvement plans for the following departments: the mayor, legal, human resources, IT, and library. And we also have three money appropriations, $50,000 appropriation of unexpended funds for kiosks. We have $40,150 in funds from the cost incidentals, and also $91,236.71 appropriated from the first Swampscott Road intersection improvements, and also $2,861,344.99 appropriation of unexpended funds related to the Canal Street project. With us tonight from the Committee of Administration and Finance, we have Councilor Stott and Councilor Harvey. And from the Committee of the Whole, we have Councilor Prosnewski and Councilor Cohen. Also with us tonight is Mayor Pangallo, John Ankowitz, our IT Director, Beth Renard, our City Solicitor, Lisa Camerata, our HR Director, Tara Mansfield, our Library Director, and Lisa Peterson, our Chief of Staff from the Mayor's Office. And welcome, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, sorry, Anna Friedman, our Finance Director, and I apologize for that. So this is the first of our Administration and Finance Budget Committee hearings for our fiscal year 2026 proposed budget. The meetings will run through mid-June. The agendas are posted on the city calendar, which include a link to the fiscal year 2026 proposed budget, almost 700 pages, and other financial information, including the fiscal year 2026 budget in brief, which I always find really helpful. It's an overview of budget priorities, timelines, breakdown of revenue sources, and where your money goes. And these budget hearings are a great opportunity to learn about what each of our city departments do and their vision for the department moving forward. If anyone from the public has any questions in regards to the budget hearings, please email me at amerkel@salem.com. And I'd also, joining us now is Councilor Watson Felt, who is on the A&F committee as well. And also joining us from the Committee of the Whole is Councilor Hepworth. And lastly, I'd like to make sure to thank Anna Friedman, our Finance Director, and the city's finance team for all their hard work that goes into the proposed budget and their overall fiscally responsible leadership that they have they steer the ship for Salem. And thank you very much. Okay, so we are going to respect people's time. We are going to go out of order and start with the legal department. And that starts, that is the Solicitor and Licensing Board, and it includes our DEI Director. And also joining us from the Committee of the Whole is Councilor Marcillo. And we are going to start with the legal department, which is in section 10. And it begins, and we will be voting on the budget summary page, which is 360. And I will turn it over to our city solicitor.
How's this? That's better. Thank you. Good evening. Beth Renard, City Solicitor. The budget before you for the legal department includes the Solicitor's Office, Licensing Board, DEI, and there's also a budget for the PEG Access, which is a pass-through that goes to Salem Access TV. I'll just give you the sort of the major changes in our budget. We do have the solicitor, assistant solicitor, a paralegal, DEI, and then we have one AFSCME employee, which is Melissa Mojica. We did successfully settle the AFSCME contract, so you'll see a new item in my budget, which is the AFSCME longevity. And those are payments that are paid to employees for their years of service. And so you'll see a $600 payment that will be going to Ms. Mojica for her years of service with the city of Salem. In addition to that, we have submitted to the state legislature the addition of an alternate for the licensing board. So that is approved at the state level. There will be an additional stipend of $2,100. You'll see that it says alternate board member. That's in the salary schedule. And you also will see employee resource group stipends. And this is an initiative that Regina Zaragoza started last year. And we have employees that on their own time, during lunchtime, will organize events and meetings for their coworkers. So there may be one for working caregivers. There are a number of them, and we pay stipends for those. There's a $3,600 allotment for that. In addition to that, within our budget, in my non-personnel section, is funds for the UMass to do the assessments for persons who are getting from the HR budget stipends for language, for Spanish language interpretation. They do that orally and sometimes written. And there are stipends that they receive that Lisa will talk a little bit about. This is for the UMass to do the assessments to make sure they're qualified to do the oral translation and the written translation. Those are the major highlights of the change in the budget.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the counselors? No? Counselor Cohen.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. Not being a member of the committee, I just want to express gratitude, City Solicitor, to you and your department for being accessible, responsive, and really doing incredible work on ordinances and other things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Counselor Cohen. And I will echo that sentiment. Thank you. We really value and appreciate the work that you do. It's a heavy lift, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Counselor Rosillo.
Thank you, Chair. Not being a member of the committee, I'm just looking at your goals and objectives, and one of them has to do with the transfer station. Where do we stand in that process of remediating it?
So we recently had a meeting with DPS and our outside engineering LSPs, and we are looking at feasibility of moving the DPW facility there. There's a study, the mayor can talk a little bit more about that, but there is a study undergoing right now. But we do have an LSP. We do have, years ago, we did a design for a transfer station itself. Right now, we'll be looking at what we can do as a combination of a building with a small transfer station yard drop-off area. So Ray, Joden, myself, the city engineer, and our outside counsel are working on that.
So what do you think is going to be done by 2026, I guess is?
So we're going to make a decision about what we're going to do, I believe, by 2026. And then we will have to work with DEP to finalize the plans for whatever that is, whether it's just a small transfer station or whether there's actually a building on it. So we'll be able to get those plans ready. Ty and Bond is the outside counsel, very familiar with the site. And Weston and Sampson has also been involved in a study.
Okay. And then secondly, another goal of redeveloping municipally controlled properties. Besides 5 Broad Street, what does that cover? What are we actively working on right now?
Just 5 Broad we're working on actively right now. The planning department is working on the Crescent lot that's underway. Can't think of anything else at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Okay. Yeah, Counselor Stott?
I didn't know if there was any additional commentary on the expenditures or all good. Okay. On that said, I would also like to say my thanks to the department and make a motion to refer to the council a positive recommendation. It's been a while. Let me make sure I get this right. Positive recommendation for the solicitor and licensing board personnel line of $550,000 and $550,078, and a solicitor and licensing board expenditure line of $84,900 for a total department line budget of $634,978,000.
Thank you. So Counselor Stott moves to recommend approval of the legal department's personnel budget in the amount of $550,078, the expenditures budget in the amount of $84,900 for a department total of $634,978. Any second? Seconded by Counselor Harvey. All those in favor? Okay, let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. Yes, let me just announce the page and stuff. Okay, so the next item we have to vote on is, the PEG Access Funds, which is on page 365. And yes, I will mention, this always catches my eye, and Anna Friedman and I were talking about this yesterday when we had our conference call, and it's the Public Educational and Government is what it stands for. And it's, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did find this very interesting, Beth, that we receive funds from Comcast that we immediately pass along to SATV. And this is for the reasons for it are equity in government practices. And I don't have full cable. And when I learned about this, I had never even tried the public access channel, and I get it. So it's working as is intended. So I do find this an interesting item. So again, we are voting on this, and it is page 365. Any questions? Yep. No questions from the counselor? Okay, Counselor Stott?
Thanks. I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the council a positive approval for the PEG access expenditure of $691,250.
Thank you. So Counselor Stott moves to recommend approval of the PEG access expenditures for a total of $691,250. And a second, Counselor Watson-Felt.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. And thank you. Thank you, Ms. Renard. Next, we move on to Human Resources, and this is Section 11, and the budget summary is on page 369.
Hi. Little deja vu.
And we'll start with Lisa Camerata.
Little deja vu. I feel like I was like just here. No, you get to sit down. It's nice to see everybody. So, as you know, I'm the Human Resources Director. This is my 17th year. Very happy here. I made a move 17 years ago after 22 years, and I've never looked back, so I'm really happy here. The Human Resources Department, I think I've interacted with all of you on for many different reasons, right? Our department does a little bit of everything and a lot of a lot. I guess that's the way to say it, right? One of my staff recently said, she says, I feel like everything touches HR, right? Whether it's, checking on their direct deposit or their payroll or their insurance or job postings, whatever. It's just, we get involved with everybody. And I think that's why we all really like it. So there's myself. I have an office manager assistant, Alicia Brady. She's been with the city for, I think, almost 30 years. Personnel aide, Amy O'Keefe, who started out as an intern in the legal department. And we have a new benefits manager, Irina Snow. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to meet her. She's caught on really quickly. She's been here for about a month and a half, and I feel like she's been here for 6 to 8 months. She's really that good. And we are also, the switchboard operator falls under my department as well, Joe Freitas, and he's been with us for several years too, and he is a part-time employee. And, as you know, our department, we post vacant positions, we schedule the interviews, we work on the contracts, negotiations, we monitor workers' compensation, unemployment for the city and the public school department, as well as their workers' compensation. We ensure 1,800, we have 1,800 subscribers in our health insurance, and we can talk about some of the numbers later. And, sort of all those different pieces fall under us. And I would say that we've got some big budget numbers that we'll talk about as well. Anna and I have worked pretty closely over the last couple of months to try to figure out ways to cut those costs. And we can talk about that as well when we talk about the health insurance piece.
Great, thank you. Appreciate everything that your department does.
Thank you.
And also, I see under the trainings too, for human resources, the DEI training coordination, and I want to thank the legal department as well, and the city of Salem. I'm grateful that we have a DEI director.
Yeah, we've actually had an opportunity to do some really cool training too. I think some of you actually may have participated in our Spanish class, the conversational Spanish that we offered. This past year, we also offered American Sign Language, which was a huge hit. And we're going to offer that again, as well as we have a Spanish class, Spanish conversational class now going on, and we're going to offer, call it like Spanish 2 for people that have already taken the first level and want to kick it up a notch.
Yes, thank you. I had the pleasure of taking your Spanish class and also the DEI training when I became a counselor, and I really appreciate both. Thank you. Any questions from the council? Yes. Councilor Masillo.
Thank you, Chair.
Hi.
Hi. I noticed you put down here that you worked with the Disabilities Commission for the outdoor dining. Are you, excuse me, is the commission going to be doing checks again this year?
Yes, I think I mentioned this last night too. Even when we're sort of off the clock, I'll get a call from like Morgan from our who takes our minutes, or even some of the commissioners saying, I was at such and such and there's an issue with this or that. We'll be out there. And also what's nice, you'll hear from the building department when Vul is here, that we have another inspector. So with Michael as well as Gail, they'll be out there checking, but we'll be out there. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the first year was, I don't want to say it was the first year, actually, Councilor Cohen mentioned it, right? We just went out there in pairs. And then last year we were actually part of the permitting process. And this year if you watch some of those meetings, we're even like stricter than we were last time. So yeah, we'll be out there. So the short answer is yes, we will be checking.
Yeah. So tell me how do you think the permitting process went with using the Disability Commission as like an advisory? Did that work?
I think it did. I mean, I think that it's a big education piece for some reason. Well, not for some reason. I mean, I get it. The more we get involved, it was just more education, as far as like we talked about last night, right? Like a 36-inch wide space, or whether it was, we sort of struggled with the tap boards because those are more for construction as opposed to just completely boxing in a place. The tables. I mean, we've advised the restaurant owners, an accessible table does not have a bar in the middle of it. We did have someone who got so creative that they actually cut the bar so that the table became accessible. So, I mean, there's an effort there, but it always comes after the education piece. So I think that it's been really helpful to include us as a commission, plus the paperwork that, or the forms that are filled out also include, recommendations and recommendations for the tables and the chairs and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it was I'm glad that we're part of it. Even though we are advisory, I mean, if they didn't have what they needed, I mean, even last year, someone didn't even have a plan and was asking us to do a plan. Like, no, you need to give us the plan to show us what you're going to do and what the spacing will be, what the chairs are like, if there's a 19-inch clearance, and even if there's an umbrella, you don't want to bump into, like I think I showed last night, the base of an umbrella, we don't even want someone to bump into, whether it's with a walker or a wheelchair. So it's an educational thing, and I think it's worked really well.
Yeah, no, it's a great job. The commission did a great job, and they really stepped up, and that's important. It is important.
Yeah, and I think that there's a sense of pride with the group to feel like, as opposed to sort of, and we do look at variances, and if there's a variance that comes before the commission, it used to just sort of be, we used to say, we don't know how to read plans. Well, we don't, but now we bring the developer in to explain it, and the group had a lot of input on some of the design at Old Town Hall for accessibility. So it's really done a lot for the commission, just pride-wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Chair Merkel, not being a member of the committee. Just to follow up on the outdoor dining, I think the first year it was really cumbersome because there wasn't the city wasn't keeping to the same order. So some boards were getting applications in a different order, and I think that got fixed a lot better this year. Can I ask you a question about GIC?
Sure.
I saw an article in the Globe about, yeah, you're nodding your head, so you know what I'm talking about?
But you can share, and then we'll talk about it. Sure.
So seems to be a funding issue that could impact on some of the providers, if I'm explaining that. I mean, you probably could explain it better.
Yes. I don't mean to cut you off, though. I'm sorry. Okay. So, yeah, I actually heard it on the radio, and I was surprised because I think it's been a couple of days sort of in the works, but it looks like they have a deficit of, is it 240 or 420? I think it's $240 million. But the guidance that we got was that, just business as usual, and they're just not able to pay the providers through the end of the fiscal year. But I also understand as part of the budget, I think that we talked about this, it cleared the house. We're waiting to see what happens. But, enrollees coverage is not affected. It's more that, people can still go to the doctor and have services that are either scheduled or they need to schedule. It's just on the GICs and paying the providers. And, it was the kind of thing where we talked about this, people have heard about it. Interestingly enough, you are the first person to bring it up to me, which I was just surprised because, we've been with the GIC since 2012, and there's always a little struggle with that, right? I mean, I think it's the best move we ever made, but there's still, those days of $5 copays are gone, right? So we're not going to have those anymore. So I actually thought when people may have heard that, oh my God, the GIC can't pay their bills, that the phones would be, ringing off the hook. I told my staff, nothing. Very surprised. So I'm comfortable. I mean, they'll figure it out. I think that this is just the first time it's became public. That's what I think.
I appreciate that. I'm a big fan of the program. I think it offers employees a pretty good range of options, and for people who don't know in the audience or whatever, it's really municipal workers, and I think people who participate benefit. So thanks for the.
You're welcome.
Review.
Councillor Stott?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. Just a quick question, if you might have some commentary on this. With the new hires, so there were 40 full-time hires. I remember a few years ago, that was a big topic of our conversation. It was really hard to get kind of bodies in the door for those interviews. And has that kind of mellowed out a little bit or balanced out a little bit from the spot we were in a few years ago with not really having the budget to entice those new employees to come over? I don't know if you have any feelings on that or have seen anything.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time there when all municipalities were all having a hard time. I mean, we were trying everything, right? It was like somebody comes in the door and they've got what you're looking for, you want to hire them. People want to work here. We have terrific benefits. I think I mentioned some of the things that we offer that other municipalities don't. So even if sometimes the salary isn't exactly what we'd hope it would be, although we did a compensation study, I don't know if you've talked about that before, but we did do a compensation study, and we're hoping that we can get people where they need to be. Our salaries are getting competitive. And yeah, people want to work here. I mean, we've had some really good hires over the last few months as well, like 40 total. And then we have, I think there's an additional 4 that were involved in the part of Mass Hire, the workforce board down the street. So yeah, I mean, we do benefit meetings after people start. We'll do 4 or 5 at a time, which is nice because the way the benefit structure is a little bit of a lag time. So we'll bring 4 or 5 in at a time. and go over everything. And there's actually surprise on people's faces when I say, the flexible spending fee, if you enroll in health insurance, we cover that. We have the reimbursement for the in and outpatient copays. There are different things that we offer, and we have structure with the splits where, some people pay only 25% of the premium for the health insurance. There are times we offer a sign-on bonus if we have had an issue. We haven't had as many of those because, as I said, people do want to work here. But the benefits, people are actually surprised, like, wow, I didn't have that in my last job. You pay for that or you offer that. And it's where, it's a good place to be.
Yes, thank you. The compensation study was discussed at some of the budget retreat meeting, and that's really appreciated. The focus on employee retention. It's smart financially, and we want to treat workers in a respectful way, and that's all good news, and it's appreciated. Thank you. And also for clarity, the Human Resources Department will be voting on the general administration, and then also there's a vote for the workers' comp budget, unemployment compensation, and the group insurance, employee insurance benefits. And also of note on tonight's agenda is the capital improvement plans, but they are just for two of the departments on our agenda tonight, for IT and the library. So that's why they haven't been mentioned so far. Any other questions or comments from the council? No? Okay. Councillor Stott?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion to refer to council with a positive recommendation for the HR General Admin Personnel budget line of $491,023 and an expenditure line of $34,200 for a total departmental budget of $525,223.
Second it.
Thank you. So Councillor Stott moves to recommend approval of the HR Department's personnel budget in the amount of $491,023. The department expenditures budget of $34,200 for a department total of $525,223, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own, and the matter carries. Next, on page 373 in this department, we have the workers' comp. Do we have any questions, or at least if...
Yeah, I could just give you...
To say, yeah.
Sorry, I can give you just a bit of an overview. Yeah, we have not been self-insured since 2008. Which is nice. We're with Maya, which is our carrier for all of our insurances. It's, at times, we have people that are out of work. But as I mentioned, I think in part of my narrative, it's just really helpful to have an insurance company handling the claims. We still have 4 tail claims you'll see in part of my budget request. We call them tail claims. They're pre-Maya. So there are employees that were injured that are on permanent and total disability. And so we're still paying their salaries and we still own their medicals. But anything after 2008, Maya handles. So it just works out really well. We insure, the school department falls under here. As you know, we are a much smaller side of the house. So our claims, we have 23. We've had 23 this fiscal year, and the school department's had 123. So it's, we work with that, and Anna and I work with that. We work with their team over there to make sure we're doing everything we can. But it does represent 84% of the claims, and on the city side, we have 16% of the claims. And we do try to get people back, even if it's on light duty, because statistics show the longer somebody's out, the chances of them returning. So we actually have someone who may be coming back on light duty shortly, which, there's a way to figure it out. There's a way, even if they can't drive a truck or go out and do inspections, there's always something we can find something to do, because we don't budget for, we budget salary, we budget employee salary, but what Maya pays out in insurance claims and those indemnity payments, which is at 60% of their wage, will hit our premium like 2 years down the road. So it's sort of the gift that keeps on giving, but it's not really a gift.
Thank you. Thank you. That's interesting. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, Councillor Stott.
Thanks, Chair Merkel. I move to refer to the full council a positive recommendation for the workers' compensation personnel budget of $334,360.
Second it.
Thank you. So Councillor Stott moves to recommend approval of the worker compensation personnel total of $334,360, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. The next item for Human Resources is the unemployment compensation budget summary is on page 376.
And I'll just tell you that the city, we're also self-insured for unemployment insurance. Usually private employees pay into what's called a solvency fund, and they pay a percentage based on their payrolls. We're just self-insured for it. And so this can be a difficult one to budget for because, we just don't know what will happen. I mean, Anna and I were talking about this earlier today. The maximum weekly benefit has gone up, and I just heard yesterday that the unemployment rate, so if the unemployment rate changes, it actually triggers an extension. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I think we'll still be okay, but you might have already known this. Depending on what the rate is, not just in Massachusetts, but there's like 7 metropolitan areas that if the rate hits a certain amount in any one of those, it will trigger an extension. So right now it's 26 weeks, but there's now an extension for 30 weeks. It's only 4 weeks, but it is 4 more weeks of benefits. And Springfield, I guess, is the one metropolitan area that put it over the top at 5.2. If it hits 5.1 or higher, then it triggers an extension statewide. So we're hoping. I mean, we estimate conservatively only because, we're just not sure what's going to happen, at the schools. And a lot of times what happens is if somebody does get let go, they usually find something before the start of the school year. So we're hopeful. We're cautiously optimistic.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Any other questions from the council? No? Okay. Councillor Stott?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I make a motion that we recommend approval to full council the unemployment compensation personnel department total of $220,000.
Second it.
Thank you. So Councillor Stott moves to recommend approval of the unemployment compensation personnel total of $220,000, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. And last for this department, we have the GIC, Employee Insurance Benefit. Budget summary is on page 378, the next page. Yes, and we already touched upon this. Anything else to add or any questions, anyone?
We would love to tell you there was no rate increase this year, but that would not be telling the truth. But we got really creative, right? And Anna and I worked through to try to recap some fringe that we hadn't captured before, and we've done a deep dive, and I think that, the rates are what they are. We do what we can to sort of promote. I mean, this year we did a video, which was actually kind of fun, so that people, for open enrollment for the different plans, encouraging people to maybe enroll in a less expensive plan, some of the smaller HMOs. We did get some migration, not a lot. But, we keep an eye on it, and we just try to educate people.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. Yep.
One thing to note for this year that's new, because it can look a little confusing in the summary table, is that we have broken out the medical insurance from the city and school. Previously, that was rolled in together, and this was done for transparency purposes. So those are the projected amounts for the city, which is in the legacy municipal insurance line, which looks like there's a cut, but it's not really a cut. It's just that the school insurance has now been separately budgeted for in the line below. And so while that amount of money isn't in the school's specific appropriation, that is an amount of money that is in the overall budget for insurance for school employees.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Yep. Okay, Councillor Stott?
I make a motion that we recommend approval to full council the employee insurance benefit personnel department total of $20,257,565.
Second.
Okay, Councilor Stott moves to recommend approval of the employee insurance benefits personnel total budget of $20,257,565, seconded by Councilor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own, and the matter carries.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for all your work. Appreciate it. So next we are moving on to the IT department, and this is John Ankowitz, our IT director, that joins us for this. We will be voting on general administration, then fixed costs, and also CIP. We'll be beginning on section 9 for general admin, and the budget summary is on page 351.
Good to go. Oh, hi. Hello. My name is John Ankowitz, Director of Information Technology and Information. Oh, I'm sorry about that. My name is John Ankowitz, Director of Technology and Innovation. I was promoted to this role last September, and been with the IT department for the past 6.5 years. So my goal is jumping into this position. We're primarily focused on upgrading and replacing our old infrastructure. So we have So like at our schools with the E-rate project, we had old access points, creating holes for the students in their ever-growing Chromebooks that they have, and any old switches that might provide network loopholes to allow intrusion. So that was successful this past January into February. And then this summer, we're going to start with our current city infrastructure to improve the network servers, switches, anything that is outdated that could cause an issue if it gets restarted, rebooted. If something were to happen, it might fail. And and then last thing, sorry. And in this March, we updated the website to its new format. With the amount of data and not being a one-to-one migration, we're working with the mayor's office and other departments to find any flaws and try to fix them as soon as we hear from them. And we do appreciate and thank everybody for their patience while we correct those issues. So as far as my staffing goes, we have 9 members currently employed, 2 open positions, one being the network position, the network manager position, which was my position before I took on the role of director. I'm looking forward to correct that. It hasn't been updated since I think when Ollie was hired for that position, so I'm looking to update it to more recent technology and our business system analyst position, which will also include GIS management. And with that, I've been working with the mayor's department and with Anna to see if we can increase the salary rate on that to be more competitive with our markets out there. And so good news is they were able to help me with that one. As far as any costs going on, I've been working closely with Anna and with my deputy director, Bobby, to find any overflow. So like if we have any licenses that are not being used, any software that's not being used, we've looked and found and tried to get rid of it. So like just a small example, we found Smart Sheets. We were able to knock out $22,000 worth of savings for the city. Just by getting rid of a license nobody was using. So thank you so much for everybody, and all your help.
Thank you. Appreciate all of that. Any questions from the council? Yeah, Councilor Watson-Felt?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I noticed that the open roles that John just listed do not appear on the website yet. Is that because they're being updated, or
Which question? I'm sorry, what part is
The
it?
open roles that you said were unfilled
Yes, so I would like to update them. So yes, I'm,
before they are published openly?
yeah,
Okay.
please. No.
Thank you.
Sorry about the delay on those.
You're fine.
Right. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, Counselor Stott? $351.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval for the IT General Administration Personnel budget of $806,993, expenditure budget of $12,500 for a department total of $819,493.
Second it.
Thank you. Counselor Stott moves to recommend approval of the IT Department's personnel budget of $806,993, the expenditures budget of $12,500 for an IT Department total of $819,493, seconded by Counselor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. The next item for this department is fixed costs on page 354. And this page was an insert.
Yes.
Thanks. Any comments or?
Just to make sure everyone has this, there should have been a new page like this at your desk tonight. The table had it printed out. Apologies.
Thank you for printing it out.
Any questions from the council? No? Okay, Counselor Stott?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval for the IT fixed cost expenditure budget of $926,500.
Second it.
Thank you. Counselor Stott moves to recommend approval of the IT fixed cost expenditures in the amount of $926,500, seconded by Counselor Harvey. All in favor? Okay, let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. Next, we do have the capital improvement plan for this department. This is in the red tab, section 7, and we are going to be looking at page 229. We're going to be, for CIPs, we'll look at the 5-year capital plan, all funds, which starts on page 228. Any comments or anything you'd like to highlight on that?
I'm sorry. Oh, yes. So yes, our phones are end of service. So meaning if there is an issue with them, they can't be serviced. So that $200,000 would include just the upgrade so we can get in line with our current thing and get support again. So yes, but as of now, everything's working fine, but until it's not.
Great, thank you. And I'll add to this. On June 11th, is when we will be voting on all funding sources that require a council vote. And also on June 11th, we vote to accept the 5-year capital plan. And this is really our opportunity to ask the department's questions. And they'll have an overall approval on June 11th.
Okay.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Marcillo?
Thank you. Can you just talk a little bit about the digitization? What are the 3 items that you have in the budget?
Yes, so it looks like we have existing funds from that, so we were able to carry that over. So this is really just for nobody that's unaware, it is just taking any paper data and digitizing it. So any maps, anything, and just we send it off to a vendor, and yeah, they make it so we can have it on Laserfish and on the website. Sorry, excuse me. Is that along the question, or am I
So this is just every year you go through a $25,000 budget basically for digitization? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry. I believe Anna would like to answer.
Yes, there's, the goal is to set aside an annual amount. There are requests from multiple departments for digitization efforts. The clerk's office, the assessing department, planning department for some materials in the basement of Old Town Hall. I think we have even other departments that have requested as well. So we're trying to centralize and sort of streamline and annually determine sort of the allocation as we go through all of those requests from departments. And so we anticipate substantial funding needs to get through all of that. And so the goal is to have that take place over several years. And so we were able to identify some existing funds for next year's sort of subset of that initiative. And then presumably going forward in FY27 and beyond, new appropriations would likely be requested to continue that.
Okay, so this is digitization of like old records
Like in the basement, things like
in the basement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then is the goal to get rid of them?
I believe destruction, I believe that is part of the role too.
Whatever's allowed under law.
Yeah, allowed under law, I believe it is, yeah. So,
Okay. All right, and then can you talk about the life cycle management?
so life cycle management is, so the growing costs that we have. So whether it be for licenses, for Microsoft licenses, hardware, laptops you have, anything, just to keep it live and recent. So we need a new TV. It falls under that or any new Zoom equipment with the Zoom rooms growing still. It would fall under that equipment. So
I guess how can I just ask?
sorry that
This isn't, no, it's not you. I just, why is this under CIP instead of a budget item?
Great question. There are a handful of, because the equipment costs are so substantial, there's an argument to be made that the life cycle management makes sense to fall under a capital improvement line. Identifying and finding $200,000 within the existing operating budget would be extremely difficult to add in any given year. And so the city, because those are considered, while it is an annual allocation to sort of maintain that life cycle, that the school also has an annual allocation for their Chromebook swap out and other equipment for the teachers and students. So similarly on the city side, there's an allocation there. I think you'll see throughout the capital plan, there are annual amounts that are allocated to departments that potentially could be argued could go into maintenance lines in city departments, but it has made more financial sense for Salem to allocate these through pay-as-we-go funds, like Fund 2000, which is gets capitalized with free cash every year to afford those annual life cycle management costs in the case of John's department.
Okay, thank you.
making that clear. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Ankowitz, and welcome to the budget hearings.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
We appreciate it. We appreciate you being here and the work that you do.
I appreciate you hearing me, and thank you for, Thank you.
Okay, so next we have the library, and Tara Mansfield, our library director, will be joining us. And we will be going to section 24, and the budget summary is on page 573.
Hi, good evening. This year, the library continued to design and offer innovative programs for children, families, and teens, including regularly scheduled sensory-friendly programs. We also, this spring, launched a free seed library, so anyone can drop by and get free packets of seeds and experiment with gardening and growing. The Salem Community Gardens donated a plot to the library, so we will also be trying our hands at growing and bringing our fruits back to the library for people to take for free. And then later on this summer, we'll also be integrating the garden into our programming. We'll have a toddler story time at the Splain Park, and we'll also be having our first ever live plant swap on June 1st, so we hope you can join us. We also improved some of our existing services, including upgrading our telephones from landlines to VoIP, and we've added faster mobile printing services so people can print from their phones or whatever device they have rather than logging onto a computer. Our goals for next year always center around supporting our community and making the library accessible. So for next year, we're going to develop programming for adults because we received some feedback that adults would like to have more activities at the library. And we'll also be working on digitizing our local history collections, which is a very popular service that we have, but we do have a lot of microfilm, so it's going to be a big project. Jumping into the numbers, our personnel lines include increases for our AFSCME employee and our non-union employees, but our SLSA union librarian staff are negotiating at this time. And moving on to our operational budget, we have requested increases for electricity and fuel. We are open 7 days a week, and with the kind of weather swings we're having, we are just using more and more than it seems we ever expect to. And then our telephone expenses also increased because of the VoIP software, but we were able to compensate by reducing our request in our materials line. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Yes, I had noticed the telephone increase, but you had offset it, with another line item from the department.
Yes, our books and materials, we have grant funding that we can supplement.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I love the free seeds and the community garden involvement. And I do want to mention your youth programming, the youth programming your staff sends me from my newsletter. It's always so impressive and sounds so much fun. And that's interesting that you've had requests from adults to want some programming as well. Yeah, I think that's really neat. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Chair Merkel, not being a member of the committee. First of all, thank you for you and your staff. Such an important resource to have in a city like Salem. I just wanted to commend you because you and your staff do a lot of community outreach, which, like people to copy you in other departments. You seem to be everywhere, which is really terrific, and hopefully that's resulted in more participation, awareness that you exist.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Agree. I do see your booth at many Salem events and happenings. Councillor Marcillo.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Tara. The library is doing a great job. I had a question about bringing the library to the CLC as opposed to the seniors coming to the library. Is it an access, like a physical access issue that's keeping them from going to the library, or?
That's honestly what we believe. We have a lot of folks who don't like competitive street parking. They don't appreciate
that wasn't
it.
The access I was talking about, but that's very interesting. Okay.
We do have the CLC van does stop at the library at least twice a week. We do have an MBTA stop right outside, so we are fairly.
But don't you bring the library to the CLC also?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering about, because it's not that far from the library, and so I was wondering why that's being done.
Oh, absolutely, and that is honestly parking. Parking is really tough.
Okay, all right. I have a couple questions on some of the numbers that you have, and it's just kind of picky stuff, but I was just curious about it. For like the number of programs held, it seemed to have gone down this year, but then you're going back up next year. The number of wireless sessions seems to be estimated for 2025 going down this year, but then up again next year. Do you know why that is?
To be honest, the usage of the library changed significantly this fiscal year. For the first time, we were seeing folks visiting the library for the entire day. And that has been a major change. So I think we are seeing less traffic overall because every seat is full. So we, part of our goals for next year is to kind of increase accessibility for charging, because we know device charging is a definite need for some of these folks. And also to maybe partner with a social service agency to help out some of the folks that perhaps aren't eligible for services in other areas of the community.
That's interesting. Okay. Okay. And then just a question in the books and materials, just the line item change for the ebooks and databases. Is there anything other than just expanding that description, or?
Sorry.
Do you see what I'm talking about, Anna?
Oh, it ended up being combined into a new line and then just adjusted to compensate for the increases we were requesting for the telephone and electricity and fuel.
Okay, but there's no difference in the category, like? No. Okay.
The system thinks it's a new thing because there's a change in characters, so it gives it a new line.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I just want to say thanks as well to the services provided at the library, my favorite department budget every year, and probably the city service I use the most, along with my daughter. So I had similar questions as Councillor Marcillo around attendance in library, that data point that you have there. I was just curious how you track that. Do you have like counters up there?
We do. The gates that you walk through when you come in, they only count incoming. They don't double count. So the numbers we have are real, unless we have a power outage.
That's good to know. I do appreciate the creativity that you have with projects like and programs that you hold, the lending library, items like that. I found it really interesting, the comment about those stay longer. One of the things that I feel I have noticed that have changed since around 2020 are spots to sit. Like there used to kind of be that reading room and now it's filled with DVDs. I'm wondering if there's any thoughts of bringing that back.
So we did just upgrade our chairs from our past capital allotment. So there are more chairs down there. There just isn't charging. And that's where the demand is. Like most folks want to be able to plug in when they're sitting there for a while. So part of our plans for future capital is to increase even more seating areas and try to expand that access, because we will see people pulling into areas where we don't want them to sit because they're trying to charge their phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, the public library is one of the few places that we have left that you can go to free of charge, sit down, pull up a book or sometimes magazines, although I notice those are lower, and just have a seat and spend time without spending money, which I think is just a great needed resource. And I appreciate the city's what's the word I'm thinking of? The city's, support of that. And then I had one last question. I'm going to actually, I'll hold it to the CIP because it was about funding. So I'll wait. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Okay. Councillor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I make a motion that we recommend approval to full council the library personnel budget of $1,283,830, expenditure budget of $404,713 for a department total of $1,688,543.
Second.
Councillor Stott moves to recommend approval of the library personnel budget for $1,283,830 and an expenditures department total of $404,713 for a library department total of $1,688,543. Seconded by Councillor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. Okay, so for CIP, back to the red tabbed section number 7, page 229.
And And we are requesting more funding to continue our ADA improvements. The library was last renovated in 1989, so it is non-compliant with a lot of things being just at the wrong level. So we're working through all of our support railings, our signs, our sinks, and everything. We are looking also to replace the courtyard doors. So in the children's room, there are a set of 3 sets of doors that lead out just to the courtyard that's protected for children. And those doors have failed. Unfortunately, they are not weatherproof and unfortunately are not waterproof anymore either. So we are hoping to get those replaced. So. And then we have our annual fund for repairs. As everyone knows with historic buildings, especially heavy use historic buildings, we are constantly having to replace and repair things. We have loose slate shingles. We have a new leak. We have a lot of things that we need to address that are hard to budget for in advance.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Councillor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. So I had a question about the furniture, which I think you answered earlier, and I appreciate that. And then just a follow-up question about the courtyard entrances, because that's kind of my other, we have this beautiful lawn area that nobody is allowed to go on. So is the plan for the new entrances to make that more accessible and open for people to go on, or will it still be, I'm not sure if there's a time schedule now. It sounds like now it's not open at all, but is there going to be any additional access to the grassy area at the library?
Okay, so we are hoping, honestly, with our adult programming to hold programs outside. One of the tricky things with the library is the visibility out into that area is not great for staff. So we do want to have someone out there. We do have spiked fence. There are a lot of things. So we are definitely working on that. We plan to do as much programming as we can outside.
So just to confirm, so you don't want to have public out in the area without a staff member present because of safety concerns?
Yeah,
with the fence?
And the fountain is not a safe thing. There's a huge electrical box there for the fountain. It's not like a.
I understand that. It's I think disappointing. There are very few kind of grassy areas there that would be great for adding additional outside furniture for people to sit out and read a book. One of the frustrating things for me about the library is the physical space. While it's a gorgeous, beautiful old building, it's not. It doesn't have the most communal areas to sit. Yeah, so. Being able to utilize every inch that we have, including the outside space, would be a dream. So this is my last chance to say it here in a budget meeting, so I'm saying it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the councilors? Okay, I also want to say thank you. The importance of our library cannot be overstated, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, so we will be moving on to the mayor. And we will, the mayor's, the executive office section is section 1, and the budget summary is on page 262.
Good evening, councilors. It is great to be back with you again for this annual process. I want to start off by just, again, I know it was mentioned at the top, but recognizing and thanking Anna and the finance team for all that they do to make this document possible. It's more than just a binder of 700 some odd pages, which has actually gone on a diet. I think it used to be a little bit longer, but it represents kind of the culmination of many, many months of work that started far earlier in the calendar year with department heads and has landed before you in its current form, thanks to the hard work of a lot of the folks on the finance team led by Anna. So thank you for that. Yeah, a round of applause. Sorry. And I also want to thank my staff. Lisa, my chief of staff, is with us tonight, but the entire team in the mayor's office. I'm really fortunate to have a strong team there working on a variety of the challenges that we have in our community, from our new Children's Alliance Director to the work that's happening around housing stability and constituent services and our special events programming and preparing for 2026. There's a lot of activity in our office. If you've been by, you know that it's certainly picked up with the inclusion of the housing assistance work that Lori Stewart's been doing with a regular kind of line of people coming in to see her for assistance with programs. So proud of the work that's been happening. It's a busy city. I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to serve and to lead the team that we have, not just in the mayor's office, but across all of our departments. I'm happy to talk about anything specific in this budget if you'd like. I do want to call out a couple of things. We have a lot of information in the performance measures, so I'm happy to talk about those. Some of the more recent work around constituent services that I wanted to highlight relate to our mobile mayor's office and City Hall to Go, which are two separate things. The mobile mayor's office is an initiative where we take the entire staff from our office out of City Hall and we set up on laptops and folding tables at places in the community that are open to the public, and folks have a chance to kind of come in and meet with me, meet with the staff. We have the opportunity to engage with programs that are happening if it's at a park or at Espacio, or we were most recently at Pioneer Terrace in the community room there. So that's been a really great opportunity. City Hall to Go is a tent, pop-up tent that we set up at things like farmers markets and block parties where city staff will be present to help with answering questions or filling out paperwork. If you have any upcoming events in your neighborhoods or your wards that are of that nature that you might want to invite the City Hall to Go folks to set up, we're happy to facilitate that as well. And the staff in my office also engage in something called Wednesday Walks. So our constituent services team goes door to door in a business neighborhood or a residential neighborhood, just providing their contact information, checking in with people and letting them know that we're there to answer their questions. We've also been expanding our communications efforts, so both on social media, our Code Red systems, our city news and alerts. We've already talked to, John mentioned the website. We have our own newsletter out of the mayor's office as well, and starting tomorrow, the first episode of our podcast. So we're hip, right? Okay. If I say so, thanks. There are no major changes in our budget in terms of the number of personnel. There's increases in compensation. As mentioned earlier today, we did, and we talked about a little bit at the budget retreat. A lot of the changes you'll see in personnel throughout the budget, not just in the mayor's office, are a reflection of a number of initiatives we've taken. I really like to think about this year's budget as being an attempt to better invest in the workers whose work makes our city work. And so that takes the form of the contracts that we've negotiated with our public employees unions. It takes the form of our compensation study for our non-union employees, and also a variety of other initiatives we're doing to kind of make people happy about working for the city of Salem, to improve retention, keep people here, attract people here. Lisa talked about the increase in the number of hires that we've been able to bring in, I think because we're trying to create a workplace that supports the workers. Most of the budget increase overall across the budget is in fixed costs, as it typically is. So about 2/3 of the budget increase over last fiscal year are related to fixed costs, over which the city doesn't have much control. And then the bulk of that other third are those contracts that I mentioned. Police, fire, teacher, and AFSCME are the larger ones, and we're negotiating with the library right now. On the expense side, we have a slight reduction in the mayor's office around our consulting and contracted services. It's really just a reflection of trying to help address some of those budget increases that we were seeing from those fixed costs. So we were looking for ways to scale back on some of the cost centers where we have some more discretion. I think that covers it for the mayor's office. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I have no capital requests this year. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, sorry, one more point. The other increase in the personnel cost is that this is the last year of the Housing Stability Coordinator's position, which had been funded with ARPA. Is this the last year, or we have one more left? We're 50-50. We're 50-50 this year, so we have one more next year of we're gradually moving that position salary off of ARPA and onto the general fund. So that increase is also a reflection of why the personnel costs are going up.
Great, thank you. You actually touched upon the items that I have highlighted on the page here, because I did want to comment on the constituent services. Residents have commented, it's certainly been on their radar. I had highlighted your Wednesday walks. I see your team walking around the downtown to the businesses and the City Hall to go, the housing stability services. I know how busy that's been, so I really appreciate it, and the residents have appreciated it as well. I see it at the Community Life Center as well as the other locations you have mentioned. Also, I'd love to hear a little bit about the Salem City Academy that has popped up on the radar, and it definitely caught my eye. You want to just talk a little bit about what that is, since it's new?
Sure. So we've actually run it in the past. It's been a long time since we've did it. So Mayor Driscoll had done a version of it once, and then we did it, I think, maybe 2 years ago. And this is an opportunity for members of our community who maybe are new to the community or just discovering local government to participate in a series of classes, so to speak, where they get to meet department heads, participate in meetings with city departments, and learn about how their government works. It's modeled on similar programs that the police department and the fire department run, but it's focused around the functions of government. And I don't know if you want to add any more. It's Julio Mota in my office is the lead for it, and I don't know, Lisa, if you want to add anything further.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that it's designed to be smaller, so it's more nimble, and it's also really focused on both English and Spanish speaking residents, so that people can participate either way.
Yes, I saw that in the notification. I love any kind of civic engagement, so I think that's terrific. Any questions from the councilors? Councilor Masillo.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for pointing out the housing service salary here, because that was my number one question. But also, it looks like you're right sizing the salaries in your office pretty much. There's several that had more than a normal cost of living raise, right?
Right. So the way that we've approached our non-union employee compensations, not just in the mayor's office, but throughout all the departments, is all the non-union employees received a cost of living adjustment across the board. We allowed department heads to engage again this year in a merit-based process if they wanted to advocate for a particular employee who may have gone above and beyond, received some additional certifications, or done something that's accomplishment based, and we're going to continue doing that. And then the last bucket of funding for personnel that you'll see come into play is related to that compensation study. So we did a fairly exhaustive classification and compensation study across all of our departments. And that resulting plan has provided a roadmap for compensation ranges for all the different job descriptions that we have. And this year is the first year that we're starting to kind of put that into practice. And the first thing that we're doing to do so is we've identified positions that are substantially below the minimum of the range and worked to bring those employees up to at least the minimum to start. And as a result of that, every full-time city employee will now be making a living wage for Essex County as a minimum. And you're seeing that reflected in a couple of the, in one of the roles specifically here in the mayor's office, where the position was substantially underpaid based on the job description.
So thank you for that. Can you just, off the top of your head or Anna's head, what other departments were the compensation was changed because of that study that was done?
Council on Aging, Veterans Services, I think. Parking Department.
You mean Transportation Department?
Transportation. And I think Planning Department had a couple as well.
Okay, thank you. And then I had a couple questions. How do you measure the success of your mobile mayor's office?
Well, we've only done, I think, maybe 5 of them so far. So we judge them based on the number of people who are able to come in and visit with us. So,
how would you categorize the people that come to visit you in these? on these days?
Not sure.
Well, I mean, why are they coming to see you? Are they complaining? Is it because you're in the neighborhood? Are they going there anyways and they just happen to see you? Like what?
Yeah,
What's
I think
the draw?
I think it's a combination. So, for example, when we were at Forest River Park, in the function room, we had a number of residents who live in the neighborhood around the park that wanted to come talk about activities that were happening in the park they were concerned about. They had not come to City Hall, but they took the opportunity to come to the office because it was literally across the street from them when we were set up at the community room, and they engaged with us around their concerns. At the same time, the staff that were the Children's Alliance Director and my constituent services staff went into the park, into the pool area, and met with some of the summer programs that were happening to meet with the school groups and talk with them. Same thing with Espacio. So when we had our setup at Espacio, we were able to hear from some residents that came in to meet with us, but we also were there during the ESL class that the Health of Seven Gables was running. And so we had the chance to talk with those new arrivals and introduce them to our staff, let them know what services we have available, what services the city generally has available. So it's a mixed bag. It depends on where we're located. At Pioneer Terrace, there were tenants that came to see us. There were housing authority staff that came to see us. There were residents from the surrounding neighborhood that came in to see us to talk about the park project, to talk about the housing authority and their situation with the housing authority, to talk about parking, traffic, Halloween, on things.
So, I mean, I think it's a great idea, and because I do think you get probably a combination of organized complaints and, just kind of checking in to see, what's going on. But, we need to get it out to more areas, I guess, is my
Yep. I 100%,
ask.
100% agree. So some of the constraints are it has to be a space that's open to the public. So we're trying to identify that and open to hearing any and all suggestions folks have, because I think it's great.
So maybe you're trying to make it too big a deal, right? Maybe you don't need all of the activities of the mayor's office to be at these things. Maybe what you're learning is that people want to come in and they want to talk about something that's happening right in their neighborhood. And so maybe as part of that, you could figure out a different way to do it, or you don't need as much space.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one strategy. I think that it serves a number of functions. I mean, if you watch the way that the office operates on a given day, everybody's supporting one another. It's one of the beneficial side effects of when we made our reconfiguration of the physical office when I came into office. Having everybody there to support one another means that if somebody comes in and they're there to meet with Julio, but Julio is busy with someone, Lori can help them, or Sabrina can help them, or Michael can help them. So having everybody together does have that benefit. It also, I think, is a team building exercise for the staff. Like everybody feels like we're part of a team here. So I think if it were just a couple of people, we wouldn't need necessarily to have as much public access, possibly. I would want to talk to the city solicitor to be sure about that. But
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then my second question is, how about that customer service survey that we were supposed to be working on?
I have some concerns about the customer service survey, the way it's been framed. I would, I think, prefer to go back to considering an annual resident survey, which is something that we had done for a very long time and then discontinued, I think, right around the time of the transitions because of the transition. I think it provides a more comprehensive overview because my impression is that a customer service survey for somebody who's coming in because they are upset about a parking ticket, they're not going to, I think, necessarily be able to properly reflect on the customer service because they're upset about why they're here in the first place. And I worry about whether or not we're getting an accurate picture from a constituent coming in who's feeling an emotion about their interaction and not fully or fairly to the employee thoughtfully processing how that employee is trying to treat them. I'm not sure if that correct.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. The problem is that any sort of an online survey gets very little response. I mean, it really doesn't get a whole lot of response as much as we try to get it out there and get people to reply. I think you guys should think about it a little bit more. Think about other ways that you could do it. Maybe, some sort of a kiosk at the front and back door as they're going out. Just a little 3-question. I understand what you're saying. They're going to come in, but not everybody comes in angry. Some people are coming in to pay a bill. If they had a bad experience paying that bill, wouldn't you want to know that? Like, I just feel like we need to be able to capture some of this stuff, because we hear it as counselors. People will call us up and say they had a bad experience. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know what your mood was when you came in, but right,
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with the complaint. I'm certainly not going to call the person and say, hey,
I would hope that if you're receiving a complaint about an interaction between a resident and a city employee, you're contacting Lisa, the department head, even if it's an anonymous complaint, that we can still try to address it. Because we do receive feedback about interactions with employees, both positive and negative. I have to say, we do get positive feedback as well from people and praise, but it's probably not as comprehensive as a feedback form or a survey would be, but I don't want to give the impression that people don't contact us to say, I had a really bad time doing this process or dealing with this person, or I just want to give this person a shout out because they've gone above and beyond, or they were really professional in the way they responded to my questions. It's more qualitative than quantitative in that respect, but we do get feedback around that.
okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, I appreciate the concerns you expressed about a customer services a survey as well. And I also agree that we have conversations, we have meetings, and I've always given you feedback that I receive, both positive and negative. I think when it happens more organically like that, can be a little bit more helpful, because I do appreciate those concerns about collecting data in that way for the staff. Councilor Cohen?
Thank you, Chair Merkel, not being a member of the committee. So I guess I had 40% of the mobile mayor's office. And I kind of see the, as you were putting it, like the pros and cons. I felt bad because the Forest River Park was right after some things that happened in the neighborhood, and it was almost an ambush where, people kind of, got together and decided to come in. But I think there were a lot of other people who came in to talk about just general stuff. I'm really super appreciative of you showing up at Pioneer Terrace. I think just in general, people who live in public housing don't always feel like they're heard. They don't have access. As much as we have Code Red and other things, it's really hard to disseminate information sometimes. And because of that, I think sometimes some of the residents don't feel heard. And I know I was there for a little bit, and there was a lot of people there, and I really appreciate the way you guys made people feel heard and important. I do want to make some comments in a positive way about the union contracts. I know you had a lot of contracts that you resolved last year. And so just a couple of things. The AFSCME contract had this very unique study on wages that would enable the contract to be reopened. And Mayor, you and I talked about how unique that is. And I think it's a good example for other unions to have. The teachers' contract situation is really spectacular because you and the school committee really got ahead of it and decided to hold, negotiations during the summer. And I think the result is that we have really super competitive wages for our teachers, which is a good way of retaining people. For people who don't know, the police contract, usually a lot of the senior members of a union, always fighting to get the best pension and wages, but some of the younger or more recent hires in the police department fought, as you know, to have better compensation for those with degrees. So it wasn't just based on having a criminal justice degree, but almost any degree gets better compensation, and I think that's a really good thing. as our police department looks more like the city. And the most important thing to me, and you touched on it, was the living wage reclassification. In the labor world, it's great to get an extra dollar, but reclassification can mean more money. It can mean, a better path to another job. And I think that is actually really spectacular. So I've actually talked to some people in our positions in other communities who are like, wow, you did reclassification. So really congratulate you on those labor things. And I think it's going to mean that we have more reasonably happy workers who will be more productive for the city. Thank you.
Councilor Watson-Felt?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I have one question just with regards to the line item for consult and oh my God, I can't read. Consult contracted services. I know you noted, Mayor, that the line item this year is about $10,000 less than it was the year prior. Can you talk about what contracted services and consults that the mayor's office particularly engages in?
Yeah, so the vast majority of that budget is used for a lot of our constituent-facing technology platforms. So the public input platform, Code Red through Civic Plus, are the largest expenses there. It's also used for larger translation projects that we're not able to do in-house. So for translating a large document, we've used it for consultants who are participating in our all-staff quarterly meetings. So if we've brought in a speaker or somebody to lead a workshop, we'll fund it out of that. We're using it to fund the compensation study. So it covers a variety of things. We also have an allocation there, which is a legacy from the previous administration that's specifically used for the OTA exchange program. So supporting the OTA program when they have the visiting dignitaries or the students come as well. Those are the largest expenses out of that budget.
Thank you. So is it safe to say that there may be a number of departments that would not have a line item for contracted services and may come to the mayor's office for one-off needs? i.e. translation services?
No, so we've been pushing the departments to have their own lines for translation services. So the idea with the stipend, for example, is that you have an employee who's compensated with the stipend to do the translation in-house. If you don't have one of those employees in your department, or if you think you're going to have language access needs that exceed the ability of that employee to handle, like if you have a lot of documents that you need translated on an annual basis, those departments should be using their consulting and contracted lines to plan for retaining a vendor to do that translation. The translations that are funded out of the mayor's office contracted services line are for mayor's office publications, so the new resident guides, Salem for All Ages guide, materials like that.
Okay, thank you.
And I was just going to add, related to the OTA line item, you might have noticed that one went down, and I just want to emphasize that is a very robust relationship, and that's not any indication that that is going down. It's just right sizing, because that's how much we were spending. So we're just trying to tighten things up.
Thank you. That was interesting to learn what that covers. Yeah, and it's a lot, actually. I thought it was a big number, but when you mention all those things, that would be expensive. But it was interesting to learn that. Any other councilors have questions or comments? Oh, yeah, Councilor Watson-Felt.
I'm sorry, I do have one additional question with regards to the Code Red coming out of this budget line item rather than the IT or being a part of the web services. Can you speak to why that may be the case?
I think it's a reflection of the way it was funded originally. It's just been in that budget as long as I can recall. Maybe in the future it would be moved out, but I think that that's the budget that was used to pay for it. So.
Thank you. Okay, I see no more questions. Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval for the mayor's personnel budget line item of $643,103, expenditure line item of $120,382 for a department total of $753,485.
Second.
Thank you. Councilor Stott moves to recommend approval of the mayor's personnel budget in the amount of $643,103. Expenditures in the total amount of $120,382 for a department total of $753,485. Seconded by Councilor Harvey. All in favor? Okay, let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. And I want to thank the mayor and his team and our chief of staff for all your hard work. And before we go on, we have 3 appropriations on our agenda tonight. I just wanted to check in with our finance director that we took all the votes, that I didn't miss any of the votes tonight. Just waiting for a moment to Anna to finish checking.
I am checking because I'm just double checking the map. Mayor, apologies on your line. 643 and 12382. I'm just double checking adding that up because on my notes, I have 763 485. So I'm just going to quickly double check that map. Because I'm wondering if something didn't total correctly in the budget book. There would be one moment.
Is this for the mayor's budget?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll hold on one moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it didn't, I don't know why it didn't total correctly. Apologies, the total there, I'm going to have to research why it's missing $10,000. But
Yes, it doesn't look right.
the total
Yeah.
should be 763 485. So the amount that the prior motion totaled sort of verbally was totaled as 753 per the book, but the actual math is 763 485.
Yeah.
Apologies for that.
No, good catch.
I've seen that happen.
I see it here. Yeah, absolutely.
What happened there and double check for all the other departments.
Okay.
So I'll take
we will amend.
my motion.
We'll take a second motion here. Thank you for that.
Take a second motion to recommend approval for the department total for the mayor's office, since the personnel and expenditure totals were correct, but the new department total of $763,485.
Second.
Thank you, Sir. Councilor Stott. Motions for the department total for the mayor be amended from our last motion to a total of $763,485 to correct the math. And seconded by Councilor Harvey. All those in favor? Let the record show I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. Right. Any other?
Otherwise, all set. Thank you.
Otherwise, we didn't miss anything. Okay, great. Thank you again. Okay, I'm going to take a moment to get the big book off my table here. Okay, so we are now taking up 3 appropriations. We will be voting on each one separately. And these 3 appropriations are unspent bond proceeds. These funds were allocated as detailed in these orders and are in front of us tonight to recommend authorizing the spending of these now available funds. Authorizing these funds to be applied to currently authorized projects will reduce the fiscal year 2025 end-of-year borrowing and lessen the city's reliance on debt-funded capital projects, a savings for taxpayers, especially since interest rates have been higher in the last couple of years. And I do want to thank our finance director for her due diligence in always staying on top of these kinds of cleanups. It's always very appreciated. So the first one we have is $50,000 appropriation of unexpended funds relative to financing parking, kiosk umbrellas, the project is complete, to pay costs of CIP 19 recreational golf cart paths in the amount of $9,850, and CIP 21 planned Mansfield Field thank you for that. Renovation in the amount of $40,150, including the payment of costs incidental and related thereto as permitted by Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws. Any discussion? Or no? That about covers it. Any questions from the council? No. Okay, Councilor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval of the $50,000 appropriation of unexpended funds, as you just stated.
So, yeah, with a positive recommendation for passage at the council meeting?
Yes.
Yes, so this would be Councilor Stott motions for the $50,000 appropriation of unexpended funds to be approved with a positive motion to approve recommendation with a positive recommendation for passage at our May 22nd regular city council meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. The next item we have is $91,236.71, appropriation of unexpended funds relative to financing First Swampscott Road intersection improvements, which the project is complete, to pay costs of CIP 24, city roads, non-Chapter 90, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto as permitted by Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws. Any questions? No? Councilor Stott?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval of first passage for $91,236.71 appropriation.
Second.
Thank you. So Councilor Stott motions for the $91,236.71 appropriation be approved with a positive recommendation for passage at our May 22nd council meeting, seconded by Councilor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show. I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. Then we have a $2,861,344.99 appropriation of unexpended funds relative to financing the Canal Street Utility Program, which is now complete, and these funds can be used to pay for other projects. Yep. Anna Friedman?
Here.
I just wanted to note one thing that may be helpful for clarification on this item in particular. The specific language is drafted is required to indicate that the project is now complete in order for those proceeds to be released and repurposed. And I'm noting that because understanding that there may be sort of large, outside of this particular bond authorization, there may be questions about just project in general related to Canal Street. Repurposing these bond proceeds does not preclude the city from a new authorization related to any potential future capital initiatives that could be relevant to that area. This is just relevant to some proceeds that, upon advice of our city bond council, need to be repurposed because at a certain point, proceeds, you cannot hang on to them indefinitely. And so these proceeds are at a point where they need to be spent. And so this language is what is required to sort of release these from that prior authorization, and the rest of the order would then rescind the remaining amount on that authorization. And so I just wanted to note that that does not preclude any future authorizations being filed or authorized by the council. This is only relevant to this authorization that is from 2013, so is over 12 years old. And so sort of this process, the recommendation to repurpose these proceeds for spending on projects that are occurring this year would address the need to sort of immediately resolve the fact that these proceeds are still sort of in the unspent on the city side.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. I appreciate it. Any questions? Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. Not being a member of the committee, this concerns me. It seems like a paper version to keep money for a project that should have proceeded, that has to proceed at some point. And if I'm reading right what you said, it's because the money cannot be spent as quick as we need to spend it for a project, because Canal Street is certainly not finished, and it's actually starting to deteriorate again. So I'm just expressing concern, because I do believe that this project, and I'm not blaming the current administration at this point, because I know there were a lot of factors that went into it, but it just seems like it's an expenditure to save the money as opposed to finishing the job that was set up.
So I would want to provide clarity around the need to immediately address the proceeds. Under federal law, when municipalities borrow, municipalities may not, for lack of a better term, profit off of those proceeds. So it could be possible to receive an IRS fine. And so when you borrow and you're paying municipal bondholders an interest rate on those notes, but if those proceeds are, say you're paying them 2.5%, but those proceeds are sitting in the city's bank account or are invested, because we invest when we get the proceeds and they don't just sit like in a checking account, those are invested. If those are collecting, say, 4% interest on the city side, that's problematic. And it becomes particularly problematic if the proceeds have been sitting for some time. Proceeds typically need to be spent within 3 years. These proceeds have been sitting for much longer than that. And I think further guidance on that, I would suggest potentially executive session with our bond counsel. And so this is in front of the council based on a series of many conversations that we've been having with bond counsel about how to mitigate a potential exposure. And so sort of separating that from any sort of planning around the specific project, I wanted to sort of just mention that this authorization and these proceeds are unfortunately no longer sort of positioned to be utilized for that original intent, thus sort of the language closing out that. But that I just wanted to mention that then understanding that there are still questions around just the project in general and how that came to be sort of, I think, is potentially a parallel exercise I would suggest. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, in our conversations, it's basically for where these funds landed quite some time ago, they've timed out for where they can sit. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions from the council? Okay, Councillor Stott.
Thank you, Chair Merkel. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval for passage to council the $2,861,344.99 appropriation of unexpended funds for the Canal Street utility project.
Second it.
Thank you, Councillor Stott. Motions to approve with a positive recommendation back to the full council, the $2,861,344.99 appropriation of unexpended funds for the Canal Street utility program. Seconded by Councillor Harvey. All in favor? Let the record show I see 3 hands plus my own. The matter carries. Okay, thank you everyone for the completion of our first budget hearing night. May I entertain another motion? Motion to adjourn by Councillor Stott, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.